Welcome back, and in this session we shall learn the second special move allowed in a game of chess, and that is named as en passant pawn capture. So let me first go ahead with the definition of this move. What does the law of chess defines this? How it defines this? Well, the laws of chess defines the en passant capture as follows. A pawn occupying a square on the same rank and on an adjacent file to an opponent's pawn, which has just advanced two squares in one move from its original square, may capture this opponent's pawn as though the latter has advanced only one square. This capture is only legal on the move following this advance and is called an en passant pawn capture. Well, for a beginning player, such a definition compounds confusion, and as such, let me present it in very simple words. So, what does it say? Besides its normal capture, a pawn can also capture his opponent's pawn en passant. So, let me help you to understand this special move through interrelated diagram. So first one says that if a pawn is on its fifth rank, so here we see the white pawn on fifth rank, that is on here 1, 2, 3, 4 and fifth rank. And if the opponent pawn which is on its start position, say here on e7, moves two squares at once, that means he moves to e5, then it is now turn of black. Normal rule for pawn capturing says that you can capture with a pawn one square diagonally to the left or right. Here now both the pawns are parallel to each other, but this special move allows white to effect the capture. What he will do is he will move his d5 pawn onto e6 and remove the black pawn on e5 from the board, and this is how this special move is executed. Remember, it's only a pawn capturing move. As like castling concerns only king and the rook, in same way this special move only concerns a capture of a pawn by the opposing side. That means a white can capture the black's pawn en passant, or black can capture his white's pawn en passant. So it's just the pawn capturing move, and it is subject to the conditions which I had enumerated. Going ahead, once again let us see this move. So we see this white pawn on fifth rank, that is on d5, and black advancing in one move, that is very important. So he advances in one move, and then white can capture. It's not a compulsory move, it is up to the player, but if at all he wants to execute this capture, it should be done immediately on the very next move. Of course, I will come to all these rules regarding the en passant pawn capture. And now let us understand the concept from the black's point of view. So we know at the start position, means as per algebraic notation, black sits on the 8th rank and white sits on the 5th rank. So we know that en passant pawn can be executed if a player's pawn is on its 5th rank and the opponent pawn on an adjacent file advances two square at once. So what is the 5th rank for black? Well, black sits on the 8th rank, so 8th rank is his first rank, then this is second, that is 7, 6th is his third, 5th is his fourth, and 4th is his 5th rank. That means black can effect an en passant capture if his pawn is anywhere on the 4th rank and his opponent's pawn, that is the white's pawn on the neighboring file, advances two squares at once in one move. So here we see this pawn advancing to g4, passing the pawn on f4. Let me also relate this word en passant. Basically, it's a French expression which means in passing. It's not an English word. So here this pawn has passed this black pawn, and therefore this special move, which like speeded up the game, invented the special moves invented in Europe, it altogether speeded up this game. Both these moves, castling and en passant, made the game more attractive, appealing to spectators and players alike. So here now black to play can capture as if the pawn has moved only one square, and will move his pawn, put his pawn to g3 and remove the white pawn on g4 from the board to effect this capture. So let us now understand all these rules once again regarding the en passant pawn capture. The rules governing the en passant pawn captures are as under: the capturing side pawn must be on its fifth rank. As per algebraic chess notation, black's fifth rank means the fourth rank. This is what I told you just now, that this is the fourth rank, basically is the fifth rank for black, who sits at the start on the eighth rank. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and finally this is fifth. And then it states that the pawn to be captured must be on an adjacent file. So here if the black pawn is on f4, the white pawn can be either on g or e file. And then it states that pawn to be captured must have advanced 2 squares from its starting position in a single move. Very important. This pawn should have advanced to g4. Otherwise, if you had played just to g3, well, you can then capture it normally. That is not a special pawn capturing move. But here we can say it has advanced 2 squares in one move at once, and now here it's turn of black, and if at all he wants to capture this pawn, he should do it immediately on the very next move. Castling, my apologies, en passant pawn capture is not available after few moves. If at all player wants to capture the pawn en passant, he should do it immediately on the very next move following such 2 square advance. To understand this rule, let us examine one more position. And let me take you through an opening moves. White played d4, black replied d5, and white now played d5. That means his pawn is on the fifth rank now. You can see it here. It's on d5, first, second, third, fourth, fifth. And now it's turn of black, and he advances his pawn on the adjacent file, the neighboring file, to e5, bypassing the pawn on d5. Now it's turn of white, and as we have learnt in the rule that white can capture this pawn en passant, and if at all he decides to capture en passant, he should do it immediately on this move. So he can do it like this by putting his pawn on e6 and removing the black pawn from the e5 square. But here the player with white piece decided to play c4, and that means what has happened, he now can no longer capture this e5 pawn en passant with his d5 pawn. That privilege is lost. So this is one of the very important rule to remember, that if at all you want to capture en passant, it should be done on the very next move following such 2 square advance of the pawn. Otherwise this privilege is lost. So now let us go ahead to the notation part as to how this pawn capture is recorded. Let me continue with the same example, and we see white playing d4. You can see the notations of course here. Black replied c5, white advances to d5, now is on the 5th rank, his pawn is on the 5th rank, and black bypassed with the move e5. It's turn of white, and if at all it decides to capture and passant, it would be recorded as normal capture. So your normal capture will be d captures e6. Which though pawn is on e5, let us just go back, that pawn has moved to e5, but you are not capturing on e5. You are doing it as if like pawn is only moved, advanced only one square. That means you will be moving your d5 pawn to e6. So the notation will be d into e6, and then you can add the word ep, though ep is not a FIDE standard, but for the sake of clarity, you can as well add this word. I hope you have understood this rule thoroughly. Very important rule. So for a beginning player, only like castling and this special en passant capture poses some problem. But if you can understand it, just go through this again, it will become very simple. All that you have to remember is that en passant is a pawn capturing move. It concerns only a white pawn and a black pawn, nothing else. And it's a capture. And this capturing takes place. It's a special. See, why are we using the word special? Because like it involves something extra. We see this pawn on d5 and black moving to e5. That means this pawn is on e5. Normally we know that normal capture of a pawn is one square diagonally to his left or right. So here there is nothing on e6. So how we can capture? But this special pawn capturing rule allows you to capture. So that is why this is a special move, and if at all you want to do it, you should move your pawn to e6 and remove the black pawn from the board that is on e5. I hope this makes it very clear, and of course it's very easy, nothing to worry. If you still have confusion, any doubt, please do come back to this video and it will become very much clear. What I also recommend is that you should solve 16 problems which have been given in level 1 book, the additional workbook of the main book, the chess course, and which will help you in making the concept more clear. So with this, I take your leave for now and will be back with the next lecture. Bye for now.